Good morning. Good to see everyone here. Happy Friday. It's so good to have everyone here today. And it's just Friday. I don't know. It just feels like a good Friday. I don't know if it's you or me, but this has been a week. So it's one of those times where you wake up and it's Friday and it's like, oh my gosh, it's Friday. And for some of you, it's a longer weekend. So it's like a really nice Friday. So I'm very excited, but I'm also excited to be here because I love today's theme of today's class. I remember last week or the beginning of the week when Danica was like, I'm really excited about this class when she was talking about Monday's class. I'm feeling the same way about this class today. So I think that must be the theme that's going on. But it's so good to see everyone. Good morning, Dee and Annie. So let's jump in. Yes, isn't it the best feeling? It really is. So I think you kicked it off this week, and I'm gonna bring it home hopefully. So this week's class is called The Power of Reflection. And I really wanted to use today as an opportunity. Like, yes, we typically come to this class to reflect, right? We reflect on the week. We are going through journaling practices. We're doing a lot of different things. And so I love the action of reflection, but I definitely want us to take some time to think about the reflection, like how we see ourselves in the mirror. And so it's kind of like a double play here. So I love how, who is it? Lucinda said it's a doubly good Friday. It's like a double kind of word here. We're going to look at reflection and we're also going to reflect. So it's a little meta here, if you will. And how this really got bubbled up in me, a little story time here, is that I was put into a lot of very uncomfortable, for a good reason, situations last week and this week. And it was one of those moments in time where my perception of myself was very different of the perception of other people, where people were looking at me as a leader, as, all these things, all these really beautiful, wonderful things. And I felt like such a small fry, such a small fish in a pond, in a big pond type of way, that I couldn't really see myself the way that other people were seeing me. And at one moment I was driving the car, I was feeling so just like down and just kind of beating myself up about how I was showing up in these spaces during this conference, that I literally said out loud, ugh, I just want to see myself the way that others are seeing me. And that is what kind of spearheaded or like kind of bubbled up for today's class. How do we see ourselves? So if you are, and it can be in any type of, you can be on one side or the other, right? So the idea of today's class is I want us to take some time to pause and reflect, to really take inventory. And it's almost like we're looking into a mirror today. So I want you to think about if you were looking into a mirror, and it's just a chance to like examine yourself. And I'm not talking about like as I noticed last night, I was like, oh, I'm getting a little bit more crow's feet, or like, oh, look, I'm looking really tired today. I'm not talking about that type of reflection. I'm talking about when you're looking in and you're looking within and you're nurturing that relationship that you have with yourself and learning how to deeper lean into self-love and self-acceptance, but also a little bit of accountability so you can show up as your best self. So hopefully someone else might be feeling that, or that might be an inspiration as we lead into this week and this weekend and next week. But that's how we're going to dive in. And I just was really excited to share that with you and to be here with you in that. And there's a quote that I found that I really, really like that I'm going to share in chat. And the quote is, self-love begins when you can look at your reflection and see not perfection, but see worthiness exactly as you are. And I love that quote because sometimes with self-love, we think that self-love has to be all about, you know, trying to change ourselves, or it's like this thing of just like trying to convince yourself that you're lovable. But the reality is you can hold space for the things that are lovable, and you can hold space for things that maybe aren't so lovable, but they're still a part of who you are. And no matter what, you're still worthy of it all. So that's really how I want us to look at self-love and like in this self-reflection. So some of the questions, they might not be your typical like self-love feeling type of questions, but I promise as we get through the 3 journal prompts today, by the end, I think you're going to feel this like deeper connection with yourself. And I think that you'll feel fired up to show up as that version of yourself. So that's how I'm feeling. Hopefully, it's a good vibe. But I just, I love this group so much. And I just love how we go deep with this. And so that's the vibe. So I'm glad, Sherry, Annie, we got 2 people. So I think that we're good to go with that. So let's dive in for our first question of the day, because I really want to sit with think. So if you would, like, you could imagine that you're looking at a mirror, right? Or you can like kind of in your mind's eye see yourself looking in a mirror. But just imagine if you were looking in a mirror, right? And you're having a moment with yourself, right? Just you and your reflection. And I want you to look back at this past week and I want you to think about the parts of yourself. All right. So again, we're not looking at the whole of you in this moment, the parts. And what parts of yourself or what areas of your life do you feel deserved either more acknowledgement, more compassion, or more appreciation? Like, what parts of you? And again, as I said, like for me this week, I was put in a lot of uncomfortable situations. I was brought into meetings that I didn't feel worthy of being a part of. I was a part of conferences that I felt like a, little fish in a big pond. I felt out of place. I felt out of my comfort zone. I felt out of my league a lot. And so when I think back to that, I want to acknowledge the parts of myself that showed up even though I was scared and even though I felt unworthy. There were some parts that felt like that. I want to show compassion to the parts of me that were loudly saying, "You're not good enough. You don't deserve to be here." But I also want to show appreciation for the parts that shouted even louder and responded back with, "You deserve to be here, Allison. You earned it." So there are multiple parts that were at play this week, and I want to just take some time to either acknowledge some parts, love on some parts, appreciate some parts, just kind of spend some time with some parts that all need a little bit of attention. All right. So let's take about 3 minutes here and just journal and think about some of those parts and how you can show up for those parts. And we'll come back and see what you come up with. All right. So I'll see you back in about 3 minutes. All right, so let's see what are some things that are coming through. Because again, this is a opportunity for you to look at the different parts, right? So often when we're thinking about ourselves, we kind of think of ourselves as a whole. But when you're looking at your reflection, right, you're seeing yourself as a whole, but we tend to zone in on maybe our eyes, right? If you're doing your eye makeup, you're going to focus on your eyes, or, we start to look at different parts of ourselves as well. And both are equally important. And so what Danica says, I want to honor how much I juggle and I do it with grace usually. I'm an intentional mother while still pursuing my dreams and making my health and vitality a priority. I'm hard on myself and have high expectations, but I'm doing a really good job, right? This is so beautiful because it's acknowledging and it's kind of just taking a moment to examine the different parts, right? Like there's I like to say that we're a beautiful mosaic, right? So often we think of ourselves as just like one thing, one role, one part, but it's like, yes, you're a mom and you also are a sovereign being to yourself and you have goals and you have dreams and there's the health component and there's your relationships, there's all these things. So it's a good chance just to look and see and kind of like shine the light down on that beautiful mosaic and seeing all the different colors light up and see like, oh, let me pay attention to this. Oh, this didn't really catch the light. This needs a little bit more attention and love, right? Dee says this past week, I believe my drive to get through hard things deserve more acknowledgement for all the things I'm getting done each week. Yes, right? Because it's not like all one thing. And sometimes it fluctuates. And sometimes we just get so used to how we always do things. But, you're like, no, this week required a little bit more of me. And while I can get things done usually, and I always get things done, this week deserved a little bit more acknowledgement. This one required a little bit more of me. And you might feel in the back end like, oh, that's why I'm actually really tired this week. I'm more exhausted this week. Or I'm feeling, sometimes when I'm going through like a really hard week, I'm like, oh, that's why I've been so hungry. Like my body's just been doing more. So I just like I'm expending more energy. But this parts work is so powerful because you start to create a deeper relationship and you start to pay attention to things that you may not have paid attention to. Lily says, I've been hard on myself for not having a business plan outlined and formally set up. I will get those in time, but I need to stop feeling not legit because I don't have those. I'm doing a great job even though those things are not in place. Isn't life building an airplane as it's flying? Yes, that's how I live my life every single day. So I get that. The grace and compassion is the gasoline and the oil that will keep this plane in the air. Lily, bingo. That's it. That's 100%. I got goosebumps. I got chills. Yes, that's what it's about. There's many different parts. There's a part that's flying the plane. There's a part that's navigating the plane. There's a part that's maintaining the plane. Like they're all these parts. I love that. That's a beautiful reflection for yourself. And thank you for sharing that. Danica says, Lily, if it helps, I've never made a business plan. Right. I know plenty of successful business people who have not had a business plan. So there's many different ways to accomplish and achieve what you want. And just the fact that you're trying and the fact that you're going for it, right? You decide if you're a business person. It's a mindset. Anyone who's been in entrepreneurship or at entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is more of a mindset and how you embody it than anything else. So the fact that you're just showing up is great. But yes, also as entrepreneurs, Donica and I are also basically saying, not to say that it wouldn't be helpful. So you do you, boo, as my 27-year-old sister tells me all the time. Caitlin says this past week, I've been meeting myself on a spiritual level. I love that. And I'm doing it scared anyways. I'm achieving things despite my imposter syndrome, right? When you meet yourself on a spiritual level, it's beautiful, it's scary, it's all the things, but it's just one step in front of the other. And it's leaning into community to support you and spending time with those parts. So this was beautiful. So thank you all for sharing and kind of going deep into that. So let's keep this party moving as we look into a little bit deeper into the radical self-acceptance part and embracing the wholeness. We've kind of put some things separately, but now there may be some other parts here that we want to explore. So as you think about either this past week or kind of an elevation on what you just shared or what you've journaled about, What parts of yourself or what experiences have you been resisting or judging recently? And how would your life shift if you fully embraced and accepted these aspects of yourself? For me, when I think of this, the parts of me that I've been resisting are the parts of me that are craving to take up space. There are literally parts of me that are craving to take up space and to be bigger and bolder, but they're terrified to do it. And they're terrified to show up in a bigger way because of the stories around what it means to be big, be loud, be bold, be seen. And I feel like it's not good to take up space, or that people think that I'm cocky or a fraud or that imposter syndrome, or they're not going to like me. And so what I do with all of that is I shrink, or I'll discredit my accomplishments or kind of brush them off instead of standing in that, right? Again, I want to see myself the way people see me, especially when they're seeing me in this really brilliant light. Why am I pushing myself away from that? And my life would shift because I would be making a bigger impact. I'd be experiencing more joy. I'd be feeling more confident. And honestly, my self-worth would skyrocket. And I would probably just own the room, walk into a room like I own the place. That's what I envision, but it terrifies me. So take some time and just think about that, right? Lily says, I'm so afraid of being considered arrogant. You don't know why. Lily, maybe spend some time with that part during this next 3 minutes, and just kind of have just see if that part of you is giving you any type of information or data on why that comes up for you. Again, it's like you're looking in a mirror, you're just having a conversation with those parts. What do they want you to know? Or what do they want you to feel? Or what do they want you to be kind of privy to in this moment? So take 3 minutes. Let's journal on that for just a second, and we'll come back and see what we come up with. right, so let's see what you've come up with. Let's kind of take into that. Caitlin put up a really great point of like having someone who saw her as showing up in her boldness, in her brilliance. And this manager told her that her confidence was coming up as arrogant. But I'm just so grateful for Caitlin to realize it had nothing to do with her. It had everything to do with this bad manager who wasn't used to women taking up space. Right. So this week I was like getting this positive feedback of how people were perceiving me. And I just wanted to see that. But there's also a flip side to that, right? Where there are going to be times where people see you in a type of way and they will tell you how they see you. And it's our job. And that's why this work, that's why these classes, that's why this community is so important, because it helps us to remind us of who we are. So when we're navigating through these spaces, when we get the opposite or that negative, unsupportive, diminishing feedback, we know who we are. And that's really important. And another thing that I thought was brilliant was when Lily said that she was afraid of being considered arrogant, and then looked up the definition, was like, what? Nope, that's not me. That's not me. So sometimes we can get the data and the proof, not from all the work that we're doing, but by simply getting real hard data from good old Webster, right? So there's so many ways that we can lean into this type of growth. But this is a part of self-love. It's about looking at the places, looking at the spaces, and not thinking that it all has to be one thing. All many things can be happening at once within us, and it's an opportunity to check in on that. And that's why, the last part and the last thing that we're going to really look into is really a chance to go a little bit deeper into some commitments, and some commitments around how we want to show up and how we want to really be in that space. Let's see, we have some really great stuff here. So Donica says, I tend to fight against my natural desire to do many things instead of one super well. It's always made me feel guilty. Like if I could just focus and spend all my energy in one place, I'd have more success. But my life is full of exciting and diverse experiences. Yes, and it makes it so much fun, which is important, right? So that's some of the things. And, I'm a manifesting generator, so I'm not meant to do only one thing. So I lean into my human design really well for that to give me some more support. But the big thing here, what you say at the very end, I will find a lot more joy on the journey, and I'm sure success, because that's 100% true. I think you're a type of woman that your success is tied to your joy and your pleasure. And so the more you lean into that, the more successful you will be. Lily says, I'm still very much processing being fired from my employee deemed to be poor performance instead of feeding the narrative that I'm not good enough. I'm just giving you a big hug right now. I'm radically accepting the rejection and reframing it to be redirection towards my life's greater purpose. I'm not sure if I would have left in corporate America if I didn't tell me to. My clients were angry to learn that I was let go, so that tells me that I wasn't working in a way. Yeah, so you're getting all this proof and that your poor performance wasn't being evaluated the right way. I am so sorry for that, but I'm so proud of you for how you're leaning into this and excavating it and finding the opportunities there. And I believe that you are absolutely right. This is a redirection for you. So alchemize that. Annie says she's been judging the part of herself that still cares deeply what others thinks, and that I haven't magically fixed this. It's a process. A book that I'm reading right now, Annie, is called Let Them, and it's really helping me, by Mel Robbins. Might be helpful for you. And Caitlin, I've been making myself smaller to accommodate everyone else instead of embracing my life. If I live my life on my terms without fear or guilt, I can truly be unbridled joy. Absolutely. It's a process, and self-love is hard when you feel like you have everything against you, trying to convince you that you're not lovable and worthy. So we have to do that work ourselves and do it in communion and community together. So my last question for you is, I want you to identify an action or a boundary that you're going to commit to this week that will strengthen your relationship with yourself. And how will this showing up bring you closer to being your best self? So that's what we're going to do for this last couple of minutes. What can you do? What can you say? What action or behavior can you put forth that's going to serve you? And let's dive into that a little bit and see what comes up. But I want an action. I want a very specific thing that you'll do, okay? So take like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and we'll come back and put into chat what you're going to do or what that boundary is. All right. I'm so glad that we all got a chance to kind of dive in here, and we are right at the top of the hour. So my biggest hope is that you have something that you're going to commit to show up for yourself. That is so important. And this is what it's about. It's not just about the reflection, but it's what do we do? What do we do with that reflection when we look back? Because my goal is eventually we get to a point where when we look in the mirror, we love the woman looking back at ourselves and we love her in totality. But it's by looking at those little parts that we get that information and we get that clarity so we can love ourselves wholly. So stay connected in the community this week, this weekend. Let us know what you did, what your commitments were. I'll be checking in as well. Have a beautiful Friday. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy your time. And you are so amazing. And I'm so glad this was helpful for you. Thank you all so, so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And we'll see you in the club and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.